Hey guys, what's up? It's Scottish Duck here once again, and this is going to be my review slash thoughts on for Metroid Prime Other M for the Wii. Okay, now, this is actually my third time doing this. First time I went on for too long, the second time I realised I was kind of ill-informed, so I had to go back to the game and do a couple of things, and yeah, but anyway. Let's get right into this. I was going to start off with a little history lesson on Team Ninja and past Metroid games, but that's what ultimately led me to go on for too long, so yeah, I'm sure you all know the gist of it anyway. Basically, Team Ninja on a Metroid game was quite a big fucking deal back in E3 2009 when it was first announced. Okay, the actual game itself, right. Story-wise, yeah. Let's save that for last, shall we? Let's go right onto the gameplay. Right. Now, Metroid games have always been renowned for their exploration factor, okay? Now, to be honest, I think that kind of died down with Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. We'll go into that in a bit later on, but for now, let's talk about the combat. Now, Team Ninja has always been renowned for combining control and, you know, just absolute precision, you know, just to create something that is genuinely fun to play and just really slick and, you know, just getting the controls down so right. They've done this with Ninja Gaiden, which is an awesome hack and slasher, very difficult but still awesome, and Dead or Alive, which is one of my favourite fighting games of all time. So the fact that they were bringing this to a Metroid game, bringing it into third person, and as a matter of fact, they've done a really good job, I've got to say. It's all down to dodging attacks, charging up your beam. It's very, very simple. Hold on. You actually hold the Wii Remote sideways to play the game, and you've got 1 to fire your blaster thingy, you know, 2 to jump, A to morph ball, minus is your map screen, and of course the D-pad to move around. Incidentally, you may think that using the D-pad to move around would be sort of a pain on your thumb, but I don't know, for some reason I don't feel that way with Other M. Really don't know what it is, because I used to play Super Paper Mario, when you went into like the 3D plane. Navigating with the D-pad was kind of a chore in your thumb, so I really don't know what it is about Other M, but they've seemed to fix that. That's quite cool, I definitely like that. And but the other factor about the gameplay is that you actually immediately, you point at the screen, you know, to go into first person, and that's how you fire missiles at enemies. Now, you can't actually move when you're in first person, which may seem a bit odd at first, you know, like, why would you want to, you know, stand still just so that you could aim? But, to be honest, it kind of works really well. I'm surprised, you know. It'll become second nature for you, know, just to dodge and all that, then instantly just firing some missiles and then quickly run away. And it's easy to dodge even when you're in third person, you know. You just have to quickly touch the D-pad in any way and you will dodge. It's very seamless, actually. It works extremely well. So yeah, in terms of gameplay, at least as far as combat goes, this game definitely lives up to its reputation, or Team Ninja lives up to their reputation rather, and it's definitely the best part about the game, hands down, you know what I'm saying? Everything else control-wise, you know, like the navigating, the morph ball, the platforming, all that's really well done as well, very slick. Just sharp as hell. Yeah, it's just a real joy to play through and through. Now about the exploration. Like I said earlier, the exploration kind of went down with Metroid Prime 3. The thing is, the previous Metroid games and the first 2 Prime games, they really nailed the whole rat in a cage feeling, which I feel is always an important factor in the Metroid series. You know, you had this huge world, you weren't told specifically what you had to do, but it was all down to exploring it, trying all sorts of different possibilities. It could get like frustrating at times, but ultimately it was just so rewarding to explore and eventually find what you were looking for, even though you didn't even know what you were looking for. But yeah, Metroid Prime 3 kind of took that and made it a lot more linear, a lot more objective based, and they've pretty much just rolled with it for Other M as well. There is some exploration to be had, but funnily enough, the items, you know, like your E-tanks and your missile expansions, which searching for those has always been a staple in the Metroid series, they're actually indicated on the radar now, funnily enough. And you may think that'll be making it way too easy, but really, you'll still have trouble finding them, to be honest, because, you know, you've got to have a certain item, or maybe there's some sort of a miniature puzzle that you're going to have to look around, you know, and ultimately it becomes really rewarding finding the E-tanks and missile tanks, you know, just like it is in the other Metroid games, so I can't really complain about that. So yeah, graphic wise, Team Ninja has always been known for their very slick graphics, especially last generation with the original Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive 3. And even on the Dreamcast with Dead or Alive 2, the visuals on that were like incredibly stunning. The only problem with them is that they don't really age that well. I say that because if you look at Ninja Gaiden 2 and Dead or Alive 4 on the Xbox, they don't look too different from the original Xbox games, you know what I'm saying? But the original Xbox games looked so good, you just add some HD resolutions and textures and that, and it still looks like a really good looking game. So you'd think the Wii would be a really good place to for this team to develop on, you know, since it is technically using last gen hardware, and it does look very sleek. It looks amazing, but the tech doesn't hold up incredibly well. You know, there's bits of slowdown here and there. Not every texture is really high. It's just little nitpicking, you know. It just looks so crisp and so flawless. You just notice these things a lot more. So whether you find that as a positive or a negative, that depends if you're pessimistic or optimistic. Overall, though, this is definitely one of the better looking games on the Wii, definitely. Another staple of the Metroid series, or in particular the Metroid Prime series, the atmosphere. It's still there. They've really emulated that Metroid atmosphere feel really well. You'll go through loads of different environments. The music really chilling. Most of it's remixed from Super Metroid. All the original music's really good as well. Well, it's that sort of an atmospheric sound, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I'm saying, it works really well, and yeah. Was there anything else? It's not the longest game in the world, sadly. It took me 8 hours to get to the end credits. Incidentally, what made me have to come out and do this review again is because I got to the end credits, and it turns out there is this, after the credits, there is this optional final boss, and then you get the real ending, and I didn't know about that at first, and yeah, so I did go back to it and beat it, and of course that point's where you can get 100% if you wanted to as well, you know what I'm saying, and then you unlock hard mode, and that's essentially the replay value in a nutshell there. So yeah, not as long as like the 20 plus hours I spent on each of the Prime games, so it's a bit disappointing in that regard. Right, oh god, it's time to talk about the story, isn't it? Okay. Simply put, okay, the original Metroids, the story took a back seat to the gameplay, right? It was very minimalistic. It had a real less is more approach, you know, which in my opinion is always great, you know. I think a story that managed to tell itself without words is always admirable. And to get the story in the Metroid Prime games, you really had to examine the environment, you had to scan things and look up a bunch of exposition at your will. And that was a really, really good way of doing it. But Team Ninja, Team Ninja's never done a good story, okay? Mainly because, you know, a fighting game and a hack and slash, your story isn't really a key component. And it's simply just there for your amusement, and I don't know, it was never especially deep or that. And the fact that they've sort of forced it into this beloved Nintendo franchise is kind of hard to digest. The story, there's simply too much of it. And Samus is now talking, which is a big mistake in my opinion. I love silent protagonists, you know. And like I said, the story, it just feels like it's there, but it doesn't really do anything, and kind of outstays its welcome, to be brutally honest. It's also very anticlimactic. Even after this whole like thing I said after the end credits, there are certain things that are hyped up, but you never actually, you know, do them. One example that sticks out is this isn't a major spoiler, I want to keep this spoiler free. Only if you've played to a certain point in the game you'll know what I'm talking about. Sector 0. You don't actually go there. I'm saying this for people that have actually beaten the game, but yeah, it's all hyped up, you know, like Sector 0, but you never go there. It's just really stupid. It ends just so abruptly, and the last boss, there isn't even a last boss. He's kind of yeah, it just ends all of a sudden. It's really, really weird. But so the story, simply because of the fact that it's there, it's kind of a bother, but it's not a big issue, right? Apparently you can't skip the cutscenes, which is kind of lame, but you know what? You can't really... The gameplay is still primarily, you know, the core of the experience, so you can ignore the story if you want. However, there is one thing about this game that bugs me, okay? This has been made fun of to, like, no end, I know. And it doesn't even affect the gameplay, but it's just so stupid and it begs to be made fun of, and that's why I'm going to comment on. This dude right here, Adam Malkovich, this guy calls you, right? And authorizes Samus to use her abilities. She doesn't find her abilities, she's already got them. It isn't until this dude phones up and says, Samus, you're authorized to use this. And it's the stupidest thing ever. I don't know, it just bugs me so much. Like, I could go past, I could get to the lava-filled area of the game, you know? And like in other Metroid games, your health will slowly deplete. And then it's not until you're halfway through this area that he'll eventually phone up and say, okay Samus, turn on that feature in your suit that'll make you stop getting damage from the heat. And I'm like, you inconsiderate fuck! So yeah. But overall, I do give this game a thumbs up. I really do. It is, it's not as good as any of the Prime games in my opinion, but it is still a good action game. Simply go into this expecting a good action game and not necessarily a Metroid game, and you will not be disappointed. I can see some Metroid hardcore gamers crying foul, but like I say, it's worth playing, it really is. So yeah, I do recommend picking it up. Right, now that's my sort of thoughts on / review of this, yeah. So yeah, overall, I give this game a thumbs up. That was also extremely corny in the game. Yeah. Anyway, see you after guys, thanks for watching. Bye bye.